Hey, YouTube. It's Bjorn, the one and only Beez. Okay, hold tight because this one may be a little tricky, but let's consider it shipping 105 because it's a little bit more advanced than 101. But sit back, relax, and let me take you on a little ride to the world of shipping from China. Well, as some of you already know, I'm the owner of a supply chain management company named SELLERKAI that focuses on helping people navigate the lay of the land in China to source, protect, and ship their products all around the world. So I have a little bit of expertise in what I'm about to explain to you right now. Fun fact, did you know I speak a little bit of Mandarin? Yeah, it's kind of like my icebreaker at parties. 我可以说一点普通话. Or maybe I should say 国语话. It really depends on where you are. First, let's start with a new announcement I received from my partner carriers in the last few days. It's regarding the recent changes in the US for tariffs on certain goods coming from China as reflected in Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974. Keep in mind I had to translate this from Chinese, so it's not 100% exact. But overall, you see that they are informing you of the 25% tariff that's going to happen and be applied on certain products. And they're advising you that maybe you want to increase your retail sales price or negotiate the purchase price with your product supplier in order to compensate for this increase. Overall, the most important part is that they're saying that their shipping service insists on the actual reimbursement of the tax bill. I'll explain more about what that means in a bit. Now, there's a lot to say about this, but the most important thing to know is there's nothing to be scared of. Most of the goods on this list will not affect your average private label seller. However, you definitely want to make sure that you verify that your products are not affected. Now, I already looked through the full list and tried to identify what I think are potential FBA private label related products. And that's what you can see here on the red side. And then I also saw, well, what typical private label products, or the categories of those products, are not on the list. And that's what you see on the green side. So as you can see, for the average private label seller, you don't have to worry. So I'll make sure that I put a link to the full list of products down below in the description so you can view it for yourself, read through it. It's pretty long, but you can read through it and verify if your product is on that list or in any danger as well. So in addition to verifying if your product is on the list or not, another thing to do is to make sure you be honest about the value of your goods when reporting it to your freight forwarder, because there are more eyes on your goods now than ever before. But we're going to touch on that a little later too. Before we start that, I want to tell you a little story of something else that's happening. So this picture is of a company in China who are protesting the shipping company they used because the shipping company reported false information in the shipping paperwork, and when U.S. Customs caught them, all of their goods were seized and tons of money was lost. This was recently in the news in China, and it's brought up the topic more of these types of practices. Okay, so that's enough backstory. Now let's dig deeper into shipping overall. In general, there are 4 options when shipping from China and using a freight forwarder in China. Normal ocean freight, which is the standard bearer. That's the baseline. That is the one that takes the longest. And it's also the cheapest. Then there's expedited ocean freight. This one may have different names depending on what freight forwarder you're using. They may call it express, they may call it this or that, but overall it takes about 15 to 20 business days from departure to arrival at the final destination. And then, of course, you have normal air freight, which takes about 10 to 15 business days in duration from leaving to arriving. And, of course, you have your express air freight, which is through express consignment carriers such as FedEx, DHL, etc. And that could take approximately 3 to 7 business days or so. Remember, the freight forwarder doesn't ship your goods directly. They basically consolidate your goods with other customers and then book shipments through the carriers. So these shipment methods and times are universal from the carriers. Even if different freight forwarders give each option a different name, it's still the same service behind the scenes. The extra benefit of using the freight forwarder, though, is that they will compare all of their partner carriers' prices and options for you to give you the best package for your specific shipment. Then we have this thing called Incoterms, which you all are probably familiar with. These are these codes that are used to explain responsibility and details of the shipment between the two parties. We'll focus today on DDU, which stands for Delivery Duty Unpaid, and DDP, which is Delivery Duty Paid. In general, the freight forwarder and the carrier will never know for sure what amount of duty will be imposed on your goods by customs at the destination country. For the sake of this conversation, we're only going to focus on the US going forward. Yes, we have something called HS or HTS codes that help to give an estimation of duty, but that fluctuates so much and is still at the discretion of US Customs. Now, to the point of all of this. The normal ocean freight option that I mentioned never includes duty from the carriers. This is why they created the expedited ocean freight option. It was to give the customers, through the freight forwarders, an all-inclusive option in which they use a faster ship with less loading time and faster travel time, as well as duty being included. But remember, I mentioned that they never know 100% for sure what the duty will be. Well, sometimes they end up taking a slight loss, and sometimes they end up making an extra slight profit. But that's the whole nature of this all-in option that they created. That's why this option is typically quite a bit more expensive than the normal ocean freight option, because they're budgeting for increase in expenses with the ship and the potential duty which will be assessed. The problem is that some freight forwarders in China will quote the normal ocean freight option with duty included in order to make their business more attractive to customers as they battle their competitors. But remember, I said that the carriers don't actually offer this. Well, just how do these freight forwarders offer this option then? Well, what they do when they submit the shipping paperwork to the carriers is they declare the goods as some other product, which has a different HS code and thus a lower or sometimes free duty. That way they can get a customer's business and not have to worry about losing profit. Another tactic that many customers have been okay with in the past is to report to the freight forwarder the value of the goods that they purchased from the supplier that it costs less than it actually do. Sometimes the freight forwarder will actually encourage this. The goal is to then reduce your duty assessed on your total goods, since duty is just a percentage of the total value you paid. So when it arrives in the US, you will now pay less in duty because you reported the value of your goods is less. Sometimes freight forwarders in China will combine these tactics together just to offer you the cheaper rate of normal ocean freight, so that you use them instead of their competitors and they don't lose out too much on their profit. While it's difficult for US Customs to prove how much you paid your supplier for the goods, if you abuse this tactic, then you run the risk of having your goods held up for a long time during investigation in the best case scenario, or completely seized for fraud in the worst case scenario. Now, I'm sure as a customer, these tactics might sound appealing because you get a cheaper rate, but they are very dangerous practices. In the past, they worked pretty often. Plus, most freight forwarders who did this only did it with certain goods that were easier to skirt by US Customs. But now things have changed. And this is why I started this video off talking about the Section 301 tax list changes. While the average private labeler doesn't have to worry too much about their goods being on that list, you do, however, have to take note that the rules are tightening up and there is more scrutiny on cargo coming in from China to the US. On more and more occasions, Customs is doing a deeper random inspection and violations are being caught. So whatever you do, don't let the loose practices of a freight forwarder get your goods seized at Customs and you lose everything. It may only happen to 3 out of every 10 people, but do you really want to end up being one of those 3? Do you want to lose everything you've invested in? I know I wouldn't. Be sure to use reputable companies such as SELLERKAI to take care of your goods every step of the way. No matter who you use, though, be sure to demand in writing that they report the value of your goods correctly. Also, be cautious when you see that they include duty on the normal ocean freight option as that's a red flag that they might be falsifying your information a bit. Well, that's all I have for you today, but I hope you found this information helpful and that you continue to rock your goals as part of the Goal Getter Gurus community. As a special bonus, I've included a link to an awesome purchase agreement template below. It's one of the most thorough purchase agreements out there, and it covers your bases completely with your Chinese suppliers. If you like this video, be sure to hit the subscribe button to stay informed as more content comes out, and definitely click that notification bell so you are always ahead of the game. Remember, you may see me as a guru, but you are all gurus too. Catch you in the next one.